Welcome to America's Heroes Group.
America's Heroes Group Roundtable with partner National Coalition of Homeless Veterans, NCHV. Today is Saturday, February 19th, 2022. Just in case you're just stepping out the bed and you haven't looked at that calendar yet, you know the date now and the time. So today is February is Black History and American Heart Month. Make sure you take care of your heart and those hearts of your loved ones. Make sure they're going for their checkups. Our host is Kelley. I'm his co-host, Colonel Dr. Damon Arnold. Our executive producer is Glenda Smith. Our digital media producer is the iconic Ivan Ortega, who is sitting here in the studio for Scouts Honor Productions. And we have two incredible partners that are with NCHV, and it's Kathryn Monet, the Chief Executive Officer of the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans, and we have Ralph Cooper, a Community and Residential Veteran Services Coordinator, Cloudbreak Houston LLC, and co-founder of the National Coalition for Homeless Veterans. Both of them walk on water. They are godly as far as veterans are concerned. Our discussion today is going to be about Black veteran homelessness. And in particular, we know that people of color have some struggles that are above and beyond some of the things that we see in the general population. And so they wanted to focus on that particular issue today. We care about all of our veterans, and we want to make sure that all of them are taken care of, but particularly those who face some extreme obstacles that may cause them to have more problems than usual in getting their care and living their lives. So welcome, Kathryn and Ralph. Who wants to be up first? First of all, my wife said, who is that? Who are those people, Ralph and Kathryn? She said, they are fantastic. She was listening to the show, and I couldn't even go to sleep. She was talking about the two of you like for at least an hour. So.
Well, you are the best. We appreciate that.
Well, thank you.
Well, Kathryn, you want to start off and tell us a little bit about what's... Mm-hmm.
Sure. So, it's Black History Month, and, we often think about Black History Month as a time to celebrate folks who have done really extraordinary things on behalf of the Black community. And I think that is fair, but, there are also some things about being Black that are particular to the Black experience, right? And some of them aren't that great, and things that should be a part of history and no longer a part of what we all face as Black people. And so as we were thinking about this month's show, we thought a lot about how, Black veterans have been civil rights leaders, right? They've fought discrimination, they've fought against racism, they've even fought on behalf of the country, but they haven't always come back to a country that has loved them the way that they love the country, if that makes sense.
Yes,
and
it does.
So when you think a lot about the unique things that Black veterans in particular have gone through, from segregation in the military to lynching and not being able to use their GI Bill benefits or their home loan. There's this long history of Black veterans suffering at the hands of white supremacy, really. And, homelessness is not a unique issue, right? But Black veterans are vastly overrepresented among the homeless population. And so we wanted to talk a little bit about that today and some of the root causes and some of the issues that relate to the reasons that they're overrepresented.
Yeah, because I know when you were saying that, I was just thinking in the back of my mind about employment. When veterans come back, they aren't as employed, don't have the same kind of opportunities to gain employment, so automatically that puts you at a disadvantage economically, and maybe that fiscal situation puts you on the street. Because you can't survive and take care of your family. So, Ralph, you want to put some grease on the table for that one too?
I absolutely do. Every single solitary war, starting with the Revolutionary War, all up until the one that might be coming any time this week, African Americans have fought, hoping that after putting my life on the line for this nation, that I'll come back and be treated as with full citizenry. And each war, each time, they have been denied You know, 1/3 of all the homeless veterans in America are black. But African Americans only make up 14% of the population.
Right.
So, you know, it's really discouraging. You know, I'm reading about a guy named Gary Smith. He's a 60-year-old disabled veteran from down in Florida. He was homeless for 10 years.
10 years. Right.
You know, 10 years. And, you know, he got involved in thinking he could solve his issue with self-medication. You know, all that did was end up becoming an alcoholic, which ended up exasperated into drug use and ended up smoking crack. But it wasn't until he was able to put his hand out and say help, and the VA was able to come to the rescue through some of their homeless programs. And we have a dynamic young lady who runs the homeless program, and she herself was homeless for a year and a half. So I guess I'm saying all this to say this, yeah, we're not getting treated as we should, but there is help available if we take that step and move forward, because I'm a counselor. I can talk to you and I can help you and I can reach my hand out to you, but if you don't want it, I'm not going to be able to make you happy.
That's right. Yeah, I can offer you a sandwich, but you got to open your mouth to eat it, right? And accept
Absolutely.
it. Yeah. You know, but you know, one of the things I was thinking about was you just hit on one of those historical strings in my head, and it was, you know, right now we're going through this whole thing about taking away voting rights and making it more difficult. And some of those people are veterans. They're black veterans, and you know that makes it even more of a criminal act to try to interfere with people's voting rights if they were serving the country and over in Iraq and in Vietnam and World War II, and they can't vote, and had put their lives on the line for the country. Unlike a lot of people run down the street with flags, right, during all the parades, but never served and never did anything, you know, really defending the nation.
1% of this nation's eligible served. 1%.
That's right. And it's criminal not to treat the people the right way. So what do you see as the solutions to this, or some of the approaches that we need to be taking to address this issue about, you know, black veterans who are homeless? As you were saying, 33% of the homeless, you know, we represent 33% of the homeless veterans, and only 14% of the population, which is really a big imbalance, you know, itself. And so what do you think is the approach that we should be taking? I'll start with Kathryn, and we'll come back to Ralph.
Oh, that's good, because that's exactly what I was about to suggest, is that I would start way up here at the big picture and systems, and Mr. Cooper could get down to the nitty-gritty and, you know, the impact to people. But, you know, when you think about the overrepresentation, there are a lot of root causes there, right? And I think VA has done really well at looking at its homeless system, right, and some of the programs that serve veterans to figure out what is really going on, to offer more training to providers to do better at serving folks that may not necessarily look like them, right? But I think once you have all that data, right, understanding it and figuring out what to do with it can be a challenge when you're looking at, you know, maybe your rate of how often black veterans are falling into homelessness versus the rate at which they move through the system and into housing, right? Because those are two very different indicators and very different, like, issues that you might have to be addressing. I think the other challenge that you really run into is the fact that every community is just one community, and not every solution that you find to this issue works in every community, right? But at the end of the day, you know, you do need to think really long and hard about the way that black veterans are treated at VA, right? I think AFG, our partners at the American Federation of Government Employees, do a survey every year of VA employees, and over half of VA staff has said that they've witnessed discrimination against veterans while they're at work, which is a problem, right? I mean, when you think about the fact that you have a population that isn't always open to going to access care or to reach their hand out for help, and then when they show up at the door, they may be getting discriminated against. Like, that to me is probably one of the biggest things that VA can really do, is to think about how they address that issue so that when a veteran is interested in help and clearly needs it, there's nothing that deters them, right?
That's right.
Because I can tell you, if I went to a doctor and, like, I was discriminated against, I wouldn't go back.
Oh, yeah,
Like, I
absolutely.
just wouldn't, right? Like, I'd find somewhere else to get my care, to get whatever I needed. And, for a veteran experiencing homelessness, they may not have other options, right? It's just, well, I'm not going to go back there, and that's not okay. I think there are some other big picture things to think about, right? Like looking at how federal programs are delivered such that we're doing our best to decrease some of the impact, right, that racism may be having in the delivery of programs, whether it's looking at, the home loan program and thinking about the role of banks and how we can address that issue, or some of the other things that are kind of occurring in systems that feed into homelessness. But ultimately, in my mind, it's very much an upstream battle that has to happen to address institutional and systemic racism that veterans are experiencing that contributes to homelessness.
Yeah, and I think you're absolutely right, and when we start talking about, equity, and we start talking about justice, and we start talking about issues of equality, when I go into the VA system, I've seen some more, people of color lately in different positions, care positions, doctors, nurses, and that kind of thing. But it's still far and few in between, and we need to have more representation from the community in those positions. People who really understand what people have gone through on a personal level and why it's important, what they are telling them when they go in. And this wasn't in a VA system; it was in a private system. But someone I know who retired from the VA recently went into the doctor and had cancer, has been being treated for about 8 years. And what she said is that she was speaking to this one doctor who, was not African American, who said, "Well, I think you're a narcissistic personality disorder, an oncologist." And she said, "You're not a psychiatrist," and wrote like this note in the chart. And she said, "First of all, this is the first time I'm seeing you, and what are you trying to do? Put something down to diagnose me? You don't even know who I am." She volunteers with all kinds of cancer support. I mean, this one of these wonderful people. And so that misinterpretation, implicit bias that's deadly as poison, that as you're practicing, you're supposed to do no harm. It's doing harm, and we have to take that out of the system. It's time to take it out of the system.
Now you're stepping on a lot of toes in this country, because basically, America's a racist country, and you realize that, just like people complaining about the police beating on black folks, the police force was formed to bring in slaves and try to get them arrested by local white folks so that they could go back into incarceration so they could work free again. So it's like it's systemic. So we're talking about changing a whole mental attitude of a nation.
Yes.
Not that there are wonderful people out there. Don't get me wrong.
Yes.
But the reality is that when folks have these biases, where did they get that from? Where is that? That's in their training and their learning. And it's like, it's a horrible situation. We fight this every single day. But, one of the things that I am encouraged by is that in the VA Homeless Program Office, we have a woman there. Her name is Monica Diaz. Mm-hmm. And, in 2021, she said that we served around 200,000 veterans. Approximately 39% of those were African American, and 3% were black women. So she understands that the SSVF program, those are the supportive services for veteran families. We use them. About 40% of that program is used by African American veterans. So, there are people who are reaching out, who understand, who are trying to be of some assistance. But yeah, we got a long way to go as far as changing attitudes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. And one of the things is that, we all have different. If we did Ancestry.com, everyone would be surprised about what's in your blood, right? what you're carrying
right?
around. But we all have different, national, all kinds of stuff in us. So the thing that I think we have to realize, and all the veterans who are listening, and all the people who are taking care of the veterans, is that we are fighting some really oppressive regimes out there right now. With what Russia's doing in Crimea, with what China's doing with Taiwan, with, these different things that are going on worldwide, and the kind of regimes we would not want to live under, because I've been to different countries, and you don't want to be there, I can tell you. We have to come together as a nation. And for people to keep turning their back on this issue is weakening us. It's putting us in a position where we're becoming fragmented. We're seeing people try to run to the Capitol and overturn our capital of our country. You would think you were looking at like a 1800s, 1700s book if you were trying to look at what happened on January 6th, right? So we have got to come together as a country, and what it does, it starts with telling the truth and coming to an agreement and looking at things. And we have people of all different backgrounds, white, Asian, who are supporting efforts of equity and issues like that. Those are the people that have that moral character. Because I remember I said February is Black History Month. Martin Luther King was saying it's the content of your character. If you can look into yourself and look at what you're doing to other people, and it's inconsistent with how you should be treating a human being, and especially a veteran who is homeless, you need to look at your character again. You need to look into that mirror and try to figure out who the heck you are, because you're not a person that's supporting this country if you turn your back on people. And but I got one of these messages. They said, you can join us streaming live on Facebook. Like and share, please. So I don't want to say that one commercial message, but I think you're right on. Both of you hit the thing right on the head about where we should be. But so what are you seeing, and what are your visions, and what are you hoping to see? Because it sounds like things are changing a bit, and that the VA is actually starting to look at things and starting to understand what's going on. I had an early guest that said, we have a Office of Minority Affairs, right, and Equity, which most healthcare systems don't have, or if they do, it's only in name only, and they're trying to sell their product on TV, so they put your face on there, but then when you go to the provider, it's like, who's that? I didn't see that commercial, right? So we have to, we have to give them some kudos for what they are doing. But what would you like to see happening? And I'll start with Kathryn, and then we go to Ralph. So Kathryn's saying the high level view, and then we come down to the real thing where people are out in the street doing things.
Well, so I think from my perspective, when I think about VA's homeless programs, they're making really great progress at understanding inequities within their little part of VA, right? But making sure that they're well-resourced and well-staffed to do that is going to be critical. And, this administration, every administration has 4 years, maybe more if they're lucky, right? But I think if there was some action to kind of make that permanent and make some of this a larger part of what VA does, not only within the Homeless Programs Office, but within all of the other parts of VA that kind of touch a veteran, right? When you think about it, to some degree, the veteran system is a lot more closed than the system is for civilians, right? Like, we know who's originating their home loans. We know whether they're using their education benefits or not. Like, there's so much that you can do to really wrap a veteran around with services and the supports that they need. But if we know that something's going wrong in another part of the system, we should be doing something about it. And to some degree, homelessness is a symptom, right? It's not always the original issue that is the issue that's going wrong. And so I do think sort of using homelessness as like the canary in the coal mine to understand more of what we need to be doing better for veterans is going to be crucial if we're really thinking upstream about how we prevent more homelessness in the future and how we make a more equitable system or get to a point of justice, right? Not even equity. Like, I mean, sure, we would like what other races have in terms of not getting or not becoming homeless at that rate, but maybe we could do better, right? Like maybe the system that they built isn't entirely the system that works best for us anyway. So, you know, I think thinking even bigger and broader is what I would like to see of VA.
Yeah. Yeah, and then, you know, Ralph, one of the things that, you know, and she brings up an excellent point, and while you were speaking, Kathryn, I was thinking about, you know, if you have a hurricane, right, FEMA comes in and you know, the feds come in and they say, okay, so what have you been doing? We're here to help you, but what are you doing? Because you're supposed to be running things. So, you know, all politics starts locally. So, you know, on the local level, what's happening and what should we be doing on the local level to make sure things change?
That's a great point for me to segue into what I want to share, because it's not just the government. It's us, the people. We need to be involved in this whole process. And there are a number of organizations that are local organizations that are not the government that actually are in there fighting and helping homeless veterans. One of them is the National Association of Black Veterans. They have a young woman, Kathryn Washington Williams, doctor, she's a PhD. She is the regional 8 commander for the National Association of Black Veterans, and she's out of Fayetteville. And she knows firsthand what it is to lose everything, because this woman was homeless herself. And being homeless in Black veterans is terrible. It's you know, she found herself homeless at one time, being a homeless veteran with 2 sons sleeping in her car. So now this organization, with all of this, most of the organization has experienced some form of, if it wasn't homelessness, it was near homelessness. Can you imagine having a job, getting paid every week, and not being able to find a place to stay? That occurs more often in this nation, especially among African American veterans. So, you know, and the aging veteran is an increasing number. You know, I tell my wife, I said, you know, honey, this is a heck of a thing to look forward to. I'm a Black man, 80 years old. I got real possibility of losing everything and ending up homeless. Those are realities. You know, all it is not pay your mortgage. All it is losing whatever income stream you have. All it takes. That's all it takes.
A bad hospital stay, right?
You know it, right? Yeah. Take all of your money.
Yeah.
Take the insurance money. You know, if you go, you know, a lot of people think you go, oh, put them in a nursing home. The nursing home takes every penny you got.
Yeah, I know about that. Yeah, I've seen that.
So you know, it's. I still have hope. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not dead, and every wakening hour, every wakening minute, I'm in the fight, because this is so important. It's really not a Black problem. This is an American problem. And you're right. The host of this show is absolutely correct. We have to do something. It's American. We got to come together. We have to. So you talked about the riot on January 6th. They're talking about taking over the government, making it an autocratic government. Yeah. They're talking about changing democracy. Who can stand there and sit still while that's going on?
Yes.
I know I can't.
No. Yeah, because I tell you, when I was in the military, before I retired, I was 23 different countries, and none of them fit as well as being here. So all around the world.
In spite of
all this stuff that's going on, I can get up in the morning and I can walk down the street without someone trying to cane me, and put me in some kind of concentration camp, and try to poison me or tell me what I can and can't do every day. So we cannot take that for granted, that freedom.
No.
Yes, and so those people who want to threaten democracy, go overseas and join Jung-un, whoever you want to join. Yeah, and that's fine, but don't stay here and mess up our country. We want this democracy to stay on the right track, and it should be going in a progressive way to help all of us as a nation. Period.
And the fact is that this is Black History Month.
Yeah.
This is an American History Month.
Yeah.
If you took every item out of the home and set it outside, every one that wasn't made by an African American, if every one that wasn't made by an African American, you wouldn't have anything outside, because everything in the house that was invented by an African American. Mm-hmm. The light that you stop for at
the filament. That's it.
Yeah. It's so much that we can.
Oh, yeah.
We built the White House. We built it.
Benjamin Banneker. Yes. Laid out the whole plan.
We built We built it right. We built Washington D.C. All the little
well, we're running out of time. We're out of time. I'm telling you, I could keep you all on for 24 hours. America's Heroes Group Roundtable with partner National Coalition of Homeless Veterans, NCHV. You Walk on Water, Kathryn, Monet, and Ralph Cooper. Now I'm going to have to stay up another 3 hours tonight. Hear my wife say, "Oh, they were so great today," and so make sure you stay tuned. You can join us on streaming live on Facebook. Oh, thank you, thank you, and God bless you. Stay with us. Stay with us. We are going to be back very soon. Stay with us.